Slash, uno de los guitarristas más icónicos, influyentes de la historia del rock, uno de los motivos por el cual identificamos rápidamente o asociamos la Gibson Les Paul como una de las guitarras más icónicas o representativas de la guitarra eléctrica, por así decirlo. Y me apetece mogollón mostraros uno de los Rick Rundowns de Slash. Digo uno de los porque me he encontrado con por lo menos 4 o 5. Me los he visto todos para escoger cuál o qué partes de cada uno son los más interesantes o los más relevantes de información y los más guapos o más chulos. Y bueno, estoy con este ahora mismo. Es de toda la banda, pero voy a centrarme solo en Slash, que es lo que quiero traeros en este vídeo. Pues eso, a ver qué nos cuenta el backliner de ese momento, sus guitarras, sus equipos. Vamos a verlo.
Hey, backstage at the GNR show with Adam Day. Adam, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me.
I know
to see you guys.
You are really busy.
We have our moments here, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long show and a lot going on.
It's a 3-hour show, right?
3.5. If you want to get technical.
God, how many guitars do you go through?
He'll probably play about 15 a show.
Me cago en Ross. 15 guitarras por bolo. Brutal.
You know, we got about 28 on the road here. We kind of bring them in and out.
How often do you go between string changes? Because they're not playing them a lot, but...
No, I go about every 8 or 9 songs. Yeah.
Wow.
You know, he's tough on everything.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
sweats a lot. And
Plays hard.
He plays hard, passionately hard.
Yeah.
So, you know, I try to stay ahead of the curve. And,
Yeah.
You know, because he'll break strings.
Right.
So.
Well, let's start with this.
Yeah.
Tell me the whole story on this.
Well, this is a 1987 standard, and this was one of the first 2 that Gibson gave him when he first got his Gibson deal in '87. So this started on the road on the Appetite.
Qué color más chulo, o sea, es como si estuviese flameado, o sea, no es como una Gold Top, seguramente en su tiempo lo fue, una Gold Top normal, pero tío, me encanta como que no sé, como que lo hubieran quemado, ¿sabes? Y queda así como un poco flameado, está guapísimo, la verdad.
And as you can see, it's served its time. It's been broken several times. It was his main guitar.
Además que es un relic natural, sobre todo porque este tío también, bueno, es que aquellas épocas tuvieron que ser la hostia y zurraría las guitarras de una manera loca. Y, joder, la hebilla del cinturón, toda la parte de atrás está desgastadísima, eso seguro que es natural. Y mira, aquí vemos que, dice el tipo también, que se le ha roto bastantes, o sea, varias veces por la parte de aquí. Normalmente algunas Gibson se rompe por la parte del clavijero. También supongo que la tengas que maltratar bastante, ¿no? Pero nunca había visto que una Gibson se rompiera por el encolado del mástil. Y dice que se ha roto varias veces. De hecho, parece que aquí hay una, luego otra. Bueno, en fin.
The Appetite and most of the Use Your Illusion tours as well.
Right. Now, you've been with Slash for how long now?
I started in '88.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, so you and that guitar have a lot of miles.
Yeah, we go back.
Yeah.
You know, he was playing with Alice Cooper and the cherry fell out of his cigarette. Landed right here.
Dice que la tocó una vez a Alice Cooper y con un cigarro la chinó y la quemó.
He was jamming with Steve Winwood, Nile Rodgers.
Qué guapa, tío, es que es muy guapa,
Playing a Hendrix song, and he did one of these neck bends, snapped the neck right in half. The headstock came up and hit him in the face, and the guitar was dangling by its strings. And that was a real rock and roll moment there.
Yeah, that is great. That's great. So, okay, besides the repairs of broken headstocks and such, what else have you done to it? The pickups, are those?
These are his Seymour Duncan Alnico 2 Pros. Pretty much we put in everything except there's a few that we like the sound of the Gibson pickups in.
Other than that, what other modifications have you made?
There's not much. A couple of them will have select value of tone capacitors. He'll play with his tone quite a bit, and certain songs need a certain value of tone.
Bueno, está hablando de las modificaciones que llevaba la guitarra, o sea, de lo que era en origen y tal, que le cambiaron varios potenciómetros, no sé qué, que las pastillas son una Seymour Duncan y tal. Y bueno, básicamente.
Capacitance.
Yeah.
So, other than that, there's not much. You know, he's played so many guitars through the years that he's used to playing different radius necks, different fret wire. So he's got preferences, but he'll just play anything.
Right.
You know,
that's great.
That works for him.
You know, it's interesting. You ride that bridge up, that stock tailpiece up high. Right?
Well, these standards had a greater neck to body angle than the reissues, for one thing. But mainly, I try to keep the bridge from having too much of a break angle.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Because he plays so hard here, if I put this tailpiece down to the, right down to the body, he'll be snapping strings before you know it.
Well, I guess that is going to relieve some of that pressure.
Yeah.
That's great. Used to it.
I'm used to it. I can't play everything, so I am used to that.
Yeah, well that's
all right. Well,
brother or cousin or whatever.
This is a replica.
Cómo mola el rack este que lleva el backliner, así como si fuera su banco de trabajo, que realmente es un fly case que luego lo chapan y va para el camión y fuera. Pero está guapísimo porque es que lo abren y tienen aquí todos los cajones, todas las herramientas y es un taller móvil. Mola muchísimo. Qué guapo. Y además va el tío con unos lineales aquí de alta gama porque esos, no sé si serán unos J. Harveys o Ultimate Ears por la estética, pero vaya que brutal.
Gibson did what they call.
Claro, esto es una réplica de la anterior porque cuenta que muchas veces llevan las réplicas en lugar de las originales o bien porque alguna vez, yo qué sé, algún fan, alguna historia de esta se la intenta robar o se rompe en un bolo porque se le va la olla y empieza a golpearla o cosas de estas.
The Appetite for Destruction guitar,
yeah,
which actually was the Appetite for Destruction guitar. It's not actually Gibson. This one is. The original replica was not a Gibson.
That's right. Who made that guitar?
It was a gentleman named Chris Derrick, and he's since passed. But there was a few of these going around, and his manager brought this into the studio during Appetite for Destruction. And the original's got such a unique voice, and he's used it. I've been around for most of the recordings, and that guitar's been on quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, and so later on, Gibson took this into their own hands. They took the guitar and they modeled it, and he's probably got about a half dozen of these.
Well, how close is it? If you were to A/B them, can you hear a difference?
You know, I haven't A/B'd them in the studio, at least in a long time. I'm sure you'd hear a slight difference.
Yeah.
Está preguntando que si de la réplica a la original, si notan, aunque sean pequeñitas diferencias. Dice que en el estudio, supongo que en el directo no, pero dice que en el estudio que se pueden llegar a notar ciertos pequeños detalles.
You know, it's just so hard to replicate the sonics, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
You know, you can get the weight of the wood, you can get everything right, but it's not always going to sound identical. And that.
Claro, dice que tú puedes replicar la misma madera, la misma electrónica, las mismas pastillas, todo, y además la misma persona, por así decirlo, que pueda hacer la misma guitarra, y que por mucho que sean los mismos materiales, la misma persona haciendo la mano, todo lo mismo, es muy difícil que sea idéntico.
Guitar just has this unique mid-range voice.
Yeah.
It just works.
Sure. Now, at one point, I remember reading he had that Joe Perry's old, was it 59 Les Paul?
Yeah, it was a 59 Tobacco Burst.
Did he have that out on the road with you?
No, it never went on the road. Got it during Use Your Illusion sessions.
Yeah.
I'll get him to get it. I'll always pretty Your Illusion day.
First gift I've ever heard of. Wow.
It is now. That's for sure. New bar. So.
Anyway,
Well, this has been refinished in black. It was probably an 88 or
Qué poco me gustan estas guitarras, macho.
89, as I recall. I have to look at the number again, but it's been around for a long time. It was on Use Your Illusion tour and a lot of his solo stuff.
Right.
And brought it back out for this, and it's mainly used for Knocking on Heaven's Door now.
Oh, that's okay. So, what's the setup on Heaven's Door? How are you doing?
Well, he'll go back and forth between the 12-string and the 6-string during the song.
Yeah.
And so when he's up here playing the 12-string, I do the amp switching and whatever sonic changes. I do that during the songs, the show. So when he's playing the 12-string, he'll be going through a pair of clean sounding amps. And so when he switches during the song, he'll switch next and go to this, and I'll switch to a couple other amps, some dirtier sounding amps for this. And so he'll go back and forth during the song. And he's a kind of player he's so passionate, it's never the same every night. So I have a TV monitor back there, I can watch the front of him. So I can keep an eye. Sometimes he'll stay longer here.
Claro, está diciendo que cuando toca la parte con 12 cuerdas, usan una configuración con unos amplis, y cuando baja la de 6 cuerdas, usa otros amplis más saturados, la de 12 más limpios y tal, y que cada noche, cada show es diferente, y el tipo tiene, aparte de los in-ears, pues tiene un monitor donde ve a Slash de frente todo el show, solo una cámara para él, por así decirlo, para que vea cómo lo está sintiendo, porque dependiendo de cómo vaya tocando el pibe y cómo lo vaya sintiendo, pues igual está un rato más en la de 12 cuerdas porque está haciendo un arreglo que en ese momento le está apeteciendo hacer eso, o baja antes a la de 6. Entonces este tío no solo se tiene que saber el repertorio para cambiar de sonidos, estrofa, estribillo, solo, ahora viene no sé qué, ahora tal, sino que dependiendo de cómo vaya sintiendo, cómo vaya fluyendo el show, pues tiene que ir bichando. Si dice, hostia, ahora se queda más en la de 12 cuerdas, me tengo que mantener en el limpio, mira, ahora le apetece cambiar a la de 6 y cambio al otro ampli, pero ahora vuelve a la de 12 y no sé qué, o sea que tiene que estar muy pendiente el tipo, aparte de saberse el repertorio y todos los sonidos que van cambiando.
So I have to anticipate the change, but visually mainly, and sonically I know what he's going to do. If he does a descending line, he'll usually end up back here. But so it can be a little tricky, but it's part of the challenges of the gig.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so you're touring with a lot of guitars. We can't show them all, but these are some of the sweethearts. Let's hear about this one.
This is a pretty cool one and unique and kind of close to my heart, just because this basically is a replica of his original 1958 that he purchased in 1990.
Wow.
And as you can tell, it's pretty beat up. But when he buys a guitar, when he looks at a guitar, whether it's expensive or not expensive, it's got to sound right and it's got to play right to him. It doesn't matter. He doesn't buy it just for the investment. But that being said, he ended up buying this in 1990, and we put it right to work on Use Your Illusion albums. And it originally had a cover on the back pickup, and it was a little bit microphonic. And in 1990, I took it off. And so this is not the original 58. This is a replica that Gibson did within the last month.
Oh, great. Wow.
To exact specs of his original. And
dicen lo mismo que de la otra, que es una réplica exacta que Gibson hizo, básicamente por los mismos motivos, porque las originales no las llevan en plan a giras súper tochas o cosas así por miedo o por cualquier otro motivo, yo qué sé. Y llevan pues estas réplicas exactas y bueno, andaba diciendo que la pastilla del puente ahora ya no tiene el cover metálico ese. Al principio sí lo tenía y que, si no entendí mal, en el 99 lo quitaron y tal, bueno, por cuestiones sonoras. Creo que esa cobertura metálica afecta a que la pastilla tiene menos agudos con la cobertura metálica.
Stressed, as you can tell, and they matched everything, and it sounds really good.
Now,
he's very happy with it.
Me hace mucha gracia el tema de que ponga aquí una cinta de doble cara en casi todas las guitarras que ha mostrado. Una cinta de doble cara con unas púas ahí pegadas. Mola mucho el invento ese.
So just getting back to the pickup, when you took the top off, did the microphonic thing kind of disappear?
It did, and a lot of times just because it might be a little bit loose.
Wow.
Any metallic that's loose vibrates and comes through, so it did help.
I've got to do that. That's a great little hack for you out there. A great way to fix the microphonic.
And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but in this case it actually did.
Good place to start.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, what gauge strings do you run?
There's right now we've got 4 different tunings.
Okay, yeah.
And for his regular standard, I'll say standard, but it's actually a half step flat.
Okay.
So that's what most of the stuff is, a half step flat.
Dice que normalmente las afinaciones que usa son medio tono abajo o algo así, y usan en general 4 afinaciones diferentes.
11 to 48.
Wow, okay.
Está diciendo que usan Ernie Ball de 0 a 11.
And then we have other tunings that are standard tuning, and then a standard tuning drop D, and then a half step drop D.
Sure.
And I will gauge those accordingly.
Yeah, just to get them to feel.
Yeah, I might put a heavier low E on the drop D.
And what picks does he use?
He uses a Dunlop Tortex 1.14.
Oh, okay, so it's...
O sea, la pregunta el chico de la entrevista sobre las púas, y dice que usa Dunlop de las Tortex de 1.14.
It's a pretty heavy pick. Combining that with his attack, it's a lot of force.
Yeah, we just watched Soundcheck, and he was killing it, man. Just throwing down. Yeah, it was.
He's having a great time on this tour, and he's playing better than ever.
God, ferocious, man. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, let's get into Ampland. All right, now we're in.
Vale, pues ahora pasan dice, vamos a los amplis. Venga, tira ahí para lo gordo.
Ampland, let's kind of talk about.
Ahora ya aquí de primera visión. Bueno, este es el monitor del que hablaba él, el backliner, para ver a Slash. Hay un Polytune, no es mini, ¿no? Es un Polytune, creo que no es mini. Aquí hay un rack que lo primero que vemos es el Furman, un estabilizador de corriente con las dos lamparitas. Estos son de Shure, son transmisores, supongo que sean inalámbricos de Shure. Y aquí tenemos más. Aquí tenemos otro Furman. Esto es un eliminador de ruido de hum, corriente y tal. Aquí hay switches. Esto creo que son delays. Y aquí las cajoneras con los pedales. Interesante también. Esto no sé de... Cry Baby. Pero enracados, porque creo que esto es como un controlador, una cosa así, porque no sé cómo funcionará esto exactamente. O sea, lo he visto varias veces, pero no sé exactamente cómo funciona. Supongo que sea uno el principal y otro el dispare. Y bueno, aquí amplis... Estos dos duplicados, pero este no. O sea, que ahora nos contará, a ver qué nos cuenta el tipo.
Just the basic signal flow of it.
Well, I'll tell you first of all, his basic sound on stage is based on 4 different sends, which is a basic dirty sound, which is probably 80% of the time, a clean sound, a talk box amp send, and an acoustic DI send. And that's what is basically...
Sí, que tienen como varios setups, dice el sonido de la acústica, el sonido de un talkbox, el sonido del limpio, ¿sabes? Varios envíos al escenario y tal.
In this system. But as far as the signal flow, really coming out of the Shure wireless into our
Sí, dice que obviamente que el flujo de la señal entra, lo primero que hace es entrar desde los inalámbricos de Shure, obvio.
Switcher.
Okay.
Out of the switcher, it goes into a MXR graphic EQ, which is basically to help get rid of some of the high end of the wireless.
Oh.
Claro, o sea que lo primero que hace después del inalámbrico es entrar al EQ gráfico para contrarrestar esa posible ecualización.
Okay. Out of that, it'll go into a noise gate, get rid of some of that front end hiss of the wireless.
Luego a la puerta de ruido.
And from there, it'll go into the rack mount wah system. And this is all in front of everything.
Okay.
Luego a los Cry Baby.
After that, it'll go back into the bottom RJM, which has all the instant access ins and outs. So basically, whatever effects are all on those sends on that.
Y luego ese switcher de pedales, que es donde van todos los pedales conectados a ese switcher, que luego con una pedalera controladora pues se controla, valga la redundancia, porque todos los pedales van con un número, el pedal 1, el 2, el 3, el 4, y luego mediante voltaje se controla que uno entre en la cadena y que otro no entre en la cadena, y todo se controla mediante esos switches.
After that, it comes out of that, it comes back up to the other RJM, where all the sends for the amps and the DI send out of. And it goes basically, the dirty sound is basically right now it's 2 redundant mono amps running together.
Y dice que después van a los switches de los amplis, que el canal sucio son 2 amplificadores mono, o sea, no están abiertos, sino que son los 2 corriendo a la vez, sonidos igual diferentes pero sumados.
And that's actually just these cranked Marshalls are providing that dirt sound.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Great.
And they're feeding 2 separate isolation boxes down underneath the stage.
Okay, so ISO like 412 cabs?
412s in boxes.
Oh, okay.
In long isolated boxes,
Wow.
mic'd up.
So you've got a full Marshall 412 down there, boxed up.
Yeah, we've got 4 boxes down there.
Wow, that's amazing.
4 cabinas de 412s, de locos.
So
how big are those boxes?
they're 6 feet long by 3 feet.
Wow,
3 by
that's
3 by
a
6.
lot of real estate. Okay, yeah.
So that's the dirty sound, which, like I said, is 75-80% of the time.
Yeah, and which are they? Is that the JCM?
This is basically these are actually the vintage Jubilees from 1987. Actually, these were on the Appetite for Destruction tour.
How cool! Those amps have been with you this whole time. That's
yes,
great.
They were retired for some time, and we brought them out of retirement for this tour. This is actually a reissue of that model, which is a 2555. It was a reissue slash signature model.
Great.
It's basically is voiced the same as these Jubilees.
Sure. Okay. Cool.
And those all have EL34 output tubes. And as far as the clean sound goes, we have some more vintage Jubilees we use.
Ah, que tiene más. Creí que eran esos 3.
And those have been modified with KT88 output tubes and an AT.
Qué chulo, todo abierto por detrás para que refrigere bien. O sea que los limpios van a otros 3 amplis y... ¡buah! ¡Qué cantidad de cableado, eh!
7 preamp tube in the phase inverter, which basically pads it a little bit.
Okay.
And that seems to work well. We've been using those for clean for some time as well.
Wow. Yeah. So on any given gig, how many Marshalls are you actually running?
Claro, le pregunta, ¿cuántos Marshalls tienes aquí para todos los sonidos limpios, sucios y toda esta movida?
I mean, the talk box, the clean, the dirty.
There's 6 going all the time.
Wow. That's, yeah.
6.
I'm switching between clean, dirty, talk box.
And you're doing all those switches here.
I do it all here. That's one of the benefits of being together for so long. We have a chemistry, and he's, as I mentioned, he's such a passionate player that he plays different every night.
Yeah.
So one time we might go from a solo, slide into a clean part, or on a downbeat. It's just, you never know with him.
Right.
So I'm listening.
Dice que claro, que lo switchea todo con la pedalera, pero que tienes que estar súper pendiente de lo que escucha y de lo que ve, porque él toca diferente todas las noches, por así decirlo. Entonces, me parece brutal que tengan que estar tan fusionados, Slash y el backliner, o tan pendiente de él, porque claro, si de repente está tocando y le apetece hacer una frase, tiene que intuir o ver que Slash mueve la mano para hacer no sé qué, entonces el tipo tiene que cambiar. Me parece un curro bastante, joder, si el show no sé cuánto durará, pero tiene que estar súper pendiente, casi más pendiente el backliner que Slash, porque al final Slash igual ataca haciendo lo que le apetezca y de repente este tipo tiene que estar súper pendiente.
So it sounds like pretty much the signal is, it sounds like just Les Paul and Marshall for the most part, but there's every now and then some effects.
Yeah.
And you're triggering them back here?
Yeah, they're all being controlled by this Voodoo Labs Ground Control Pro.
Oh, great.
But that was the whole idea of the system. That was always Slash's sound. It was a Les Paul and Marshall, and that's basically what you hear most of the time.
Yeah.
However, there are certain points in the set, in the show, that he wants a little something extra. Like a lot of times there's delay in his solos. So we've got a few different delays going.
Oh, yeah. So
Claro, el tipo le pregunta que cómo hacen, aparte de controlar los amplis con la pedalera, porque el sonido Slash es la Les Paul con el ampli y obviamente Slash tocando. Y le dice que cómo hacen para controlar también pues, todos los efectos y demás. Y entonces el tipo dice que, pues eso, que hay muchas veces que Slash en los solos quiere un delay y tal, entonces tienen varios tipos de delays y que todo eso lo controlan con la misma pedalera que controla todo.
So what, they're in the rack there?
Yeah, so in this effects rack here, like we've got a couple.
Cómo molan las bandejitas, con todo lleno de pedales. Está muy guapo eso.
Delays here. These two are actually in the effects loop of these two heads, in the effects loop, as well as these line drivers that I can activate for a cleaner boost.
Okay.
So those two are actually in the effects loop, and the only things that are in the effects loop. The rest of it, small amount of things we do have, are all in separate loops that are in front of everything.
Okay.
We have a line driver, boost overdrive from MXR that we use a lot of solos on. Just a regular MXR chorus on some of the clean stuff. Another digital delay. This one is set. This one basically is the beginning of Welcome to the Jungle. We have an MXR octave fuzz that's used pretty much right now. It's just used on part of the solo of Paradise City.
Oh, okay, cool.
So stuff just really comes in and out.
Yeah. Yeah, subtle little bits here and there, but for the most part, it's just that.
He uses the wah quite a bit. And then a couple other older Line 6 kind of utility pieces, but I use this Mod Pro for flanger on one song. And the
No, mira, creí que eran delays y son flangers. Los delays son los Boss, esos que tenía ahí. Y dice que estos son de Line 6. Interesante.
Pro, it's got a couple delay settings for a couple things here or there. So it's just a few things that come in and come out.
Sure.
But like I said, the beauty of the system and the whole idea was to have transparent, have it sound transparent, yet give us the versatility we need with the different sounds, the clean, the dirty, the talk box, and the acoustic, which has to be switched in and out when he does the song Civil War with his double neck.
Yeah.
So that's really, that's the bulk of it there.
Yeah, that's killer. Well, man, I can't thank you enough for taking us through this rig. It's
my pleasure.
Amazing.
My pleasure. Great having you guys out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Qué bueno y qué curioso, la verdad que me encanta ver estas fricadas. Premier Guitar es una revista que tiene mogollón de rigs and downs y de varias épocas de cada guitarrista. Hay guitarristas que tienen varios rigs and downs a medida de los años o de las giras, por así decirlo. Y me encanta friquear con esto, me encanta ver lo que lleva cada músico, cómo lo gestionan. Hay músicos que lo gestionan ellos y llevan la pedalera y varios amplis detrás y tal, y aún así hay un backliner que lo soporta todo esto. Y hay guitarristas que, por ejemplo, como Slash, que van con la guitarra y el guagua, porque el guagua obviamente lo tienen que manejar ellos, pero todo lo que es cambio de pedales, sonidos y todo, y de amplis y toda esa gestión la lleva el backliner. Entonces me encanta ver estas mierdas. Soy muy friki de ver lo que lleva cada gente. Me encanta. Espero que a vosotros también. Suscribiros, darle a like, comentar qué os mola de estas rig rundowns, qué guitarristas queréis que reaccionemos, que busque información sobre ellos, ponedme en los comentarios. Nos vemos en próximos vídeos de Tackrestyle.